debates in air quotes, because it's like half debate, half presentation. Round of applause for all the candidates, yay! Amazing. So we're going to kick it off with the Senate candidate presentations. So the way it'll work is basically they already got the order of their presentations. So how it'll work is each candidate will come up. They'll have 4 minutes to go through their presentation, and then we'll open up to a minute or two of questioning. So if any audience members have any questions, just feel free to raise your hand, and you are free to ask it. So any questions before we get started? Okay, awesome. Well then, our first candidate to present is Elija Barnes. And you can just hit the arrow.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's start that. Okay. Hello, everyone. Oh, can you hear me good? Hello? Good? Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Elija Barnes. We'll get straight into it. We're going to be really chill, keep it cute, and yeah. Okay, so just a short intro. Like I said, I'm Elija. I'm a sophomore studying mechanical engineering. I'm originally from Chicago, the suburbs, I will admit. Don't get on my case. And then just some of my involvement around campus. I'm the president of Collins and Ilium, so if anyone lives there, I'm trying to see if I know anyone. Yes. Hello. I'm the president of Collins and Ilium. And that's something that I really enjoy. It's been a joy to do it this year. And then also, apart from that, I am the treasurer of the newly founded the USC chapter of the NAACP, which is getting started this semester. So yeah, we'll get straight into it. My platform is based upon 4 different things. In total, it would be financial and general aid, RSO aid, community outreach, and then focusing on the overall USC climate. I won't get into the specifics for everything, but as far as financial and general aid, my biggest, focus would be the basic needs stipend. It's something that I personally want to do because as a sophomore, I know how financial aid is, I know how it works, but I also know how it can leave a lot of ends loose for a lot of students. And so I understand that there is a need, especially for freshman year students who may feel as though there are things that they need, especially for their living spaces that may be left out as far as coming up with the cost for everything that goes into going to USC. Next would be RSO aid. My focus for that is funding. I understand that for a lot of RSOs, especially cultural RSOs, being a member of BSA and NSBE, I understand that funding can be, or adequate funding to not only the number of members, but also events that they want to do for the year can sometimes be inadequate. And so I understand that, and I want to be able to work with those RSOs, not just cultural RSOs, but all RSOs around campus to make sure that every RSO is able to do what they want to do, and they function how they are intended to function. Next is community outreach. There's not anything specific besides there's actually one thing actually, but my focus would be on the encouragement of RSOs to reach out to the local USC area. So not only focusing on enriching the lives and experiences of students as they go to USC, but also making sure that they work with the community around USC to make sure that we as students are uplifting those around us as well. And then also providing better knowledge for not only the local USC area, but also the greater LA area, because I know that we do have a large population of international students, and even other students around the country that come here and may feel as though they have to stay within the 4 walls of this campus for whatever reason, just from lack of knowledge or whatever the case may be. And so I think that increasing and supporting that knowledge about LA as a whole is very vital, so that everyone is able to have a good experience on USC and in LA, because it is LA. Hello. And then lastly but not leastly, making sure that our USC climate is the best that it can be. I know there's a lot of programs and things that happen already that are geared towards ensuring that the climate at USC is equitable and provides equality for all students, but that's something that I want to focus on as well, especially working now, in this case, with cultural, ethnic, and identity-based RSOs to make sure that concerns in those specific RSOs are the ones that do get a lot of importance given to them, and that we are able to approach those problems and concerns on campus. And then that's really about it.
Okay, cool.
So,
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll open it up to, I don't even know if this is working. Is it? Okay, yeah. So now we'll open it up to some questions. So are there any questions for Elija? Any questions people have? Anything at all? I have a question. So, Elija, why did you decide to run for Senate? I know you spent some time, leading one of the residential colleges. So what made you kind of want to transition from that to leadership elsewhere?
Yeah, so I will say being president of Collins and Ilium has really been, like I said, an enriching and amazing opportunity. I've gotten to meet so many new people that are not only students but also administration, on the administration side. And although community council is a great outlet to get things done, it's mostly programming, I will say. And so Senate will give me the ability to make a change that not only I want to see, but I know other students want to see in a more, I guess, legislative or administrational way. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, Susanna.
Yeah, I was wondering, are there any specific RSOs that you're planning on working with to increase outreach outside of campus?
Yeah, so I would say, being a part of going back to cultural RSOs, I know that as far as the ones that I'm in, they do a lot, not only for the people who are in those clubs, but also I feel like they have a big presence on campus. And so that would be my first I guess, option to go to. But off of that, I think after that would be probably pre-professional or RSOs dealing with people's careers. I think that there is a lot of opportunity to work with the skills that people have, and working with RSOs that deal with, to say, Marshall business students or STEM students, approaching problems that we see within the community. That's a great way, and working with those students who are, I guess, how do you say? Those students with those skills are within those RSOs, which makes it easier to reach out to them, and which would then make it easier for us to make an impact on the community as a whole. Yeah.
Okay, next we have Brandon Tavakoli.
Well, Nivea, thank you so much. Really excited and eager, proud about the turnout for tonight. So excited to talk to you a little bit about my platform. But first, a little bit about me. My name is Brandon Tavakoli. I'm a junior double majoring in business administration and public policy and law. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. So I'm, keeping my Persian parents comfortable by staying as close as I can to them. My favorite study spot at USG is Ministry of Coffee, and my go-to order is the iced vanilla latte and the salmon bagel. So pretty basic, but totally is my go-to. I'd like to highlight a little bit about my experience here since freshman year. I think I've really built up to being as effective as I can in my second term as a USG senator. So I've spent the past year as a USG senator learning, the bureaucratic process, the legislative process, and I've made a lot of incredible progress on some of the projects that I've worked on last year, and it's my goal to continue the progress next year. As we know, the process is really slow to get real substantive legislative change, and I just need another year to try to get as much as I can done and make sure those projects come to fruition. So I interned for last semester an LA City Councilwoman, Tracy Park. She represents Venice and Brentwood, Westchester, which is the LAX area. So in that capacity, I was able to learn how to navigate and communicate to very multi-stakeholder environments, and how to navigate, the needs of a diverse community that she represents. And then I was a former e-board member of Political Student Assembly and a former RSO president, so I understand what it takes to manage a budget, what the challenges are to get access to funding, and to make a program as effective and efficient as you can. So let's move on to my platform. I'm a commuter student, so I just started being a commuter student. So my goal is to continue to work on a commuter student package. I'm spearheading a $10 printing stipend for students who live off campus and need to access free printing at the USC libraries. I know there's a lot of incredible work on cutting parking rates for off-campus students, so I want to be as helpful as I can in stewarding and shepherding that project along as well. And then moving on to enhancing RSO resources. As a former RSO president, I understand what the costs are associated to working with USC Hospitality, whether that be renting out spaces, catering, town and country rentals. It's really expensive. And so how do we allow USC Hospitality, give students, empower students their own rate and their own negotiating power when they're talking to USC Hospitality? And then finally, my last project that I'm working on, improving web registration. I don't know about you, but I've experienced software slows, crashes, so I care about each cycle, making sure that the Office of the Registrar is as transparent, as accountable as they can be. And part of that work is to have them publish some data, have them publish a self-assessment about what they've done right, what they've done wrong, and how they're going to improve for the next cycle. So with that, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Brandon. Any questions for Brandon? Yeah, Aiden?
What project this year did you work on that you're most proud of?
So, again, I just want to say that a lot of projects take a lot of time because the bureaucratic process is so slow. But I am most proud of one of my first initiatives, which is to hold the budget accountable to the values of the Senate. We spend around 25% of our budget on one programming assembly, and because it's such a large sum of money, I think it's so important that we use that funds to empower our students. So Senator Melendez and I wrote an amendment to ensure that the money that's allocated to the concerts committee is actually used to empower student voices and student performers at our concerts.
One more question? Yes, Michelle.
So when using USG funding for individual student projects, oftentimes students' financial aid packages are rechecked or looked at again or adjusted. So how do you plan on catering to those on financial aid, and how do you ensure that students' packages aren't affected against them?
That's a really important point. With a lot of the senators that I serve with, I've had conversations about how when they get their stipend, it's taken out of their financial aid. So I will be working with student senators who are on financial aid to spearhead an initiative that would, hold that accountable and make sure that not only pro staff, but the Senate as a whole and USG as a whole understand that if you're on financial aid, you're disproportionately unable to have the full benefits of that stipend. And I think that's just, wrong.
Thank you, Brandon. Okay, next we have, next we have Dane. Woo! I'm gonna go back to the vote on logo then. Okay.
Oh, that's good, yeah. Okay. Is this close enough to the microphone?
Yeah, I think you can move it up a little bit.
Oh, I can. Okay, is that good? Okay, cool. Hi, everybody. My name is Dane Sprague, and I'm running for USG Senate. And as Nivi kind of said earlier, we've got 11 folks running for a 12-seat race. So that's kind of why I didn't prepare a slideshow for everybody, because I didn't really view this as a campaign event or sort of just an opportunity to give you guys some slogans about me, but more about just kind of talking to you guys about some issues that I'm concerned about and that I plan to work on as a senator and with my future co-senators, okay? So let me tell you guys a kind of a story, right? So earlier this semester, all new RSO applications and some applications from existing organizations were rejected, meaning that effectively no new RSOs were allowed to be started this semester with institutional support from USC. And typically, in the spring semester, it's only for reapplications. So it's really doubtful that new RSOs that would have been started otherwise will have the same opportunity to get the same institutional support to support our academic pursuit and our community that we have here at USC. So the reasons behind this decision are kind of opaque, and rumors have swirled kind of in the absence of a satisfying official explanation. But needless to say, this was an abrupt and unexpected change with no prior warning to organizers, as far as I'm aware. And this change upended the plans of many students who were only trying to make the community of USC a better place. I don't like this because I think that student organizations are the lifeblood of USC, okay? I made all of my best friends through the Trojan Debate Society, which is USC's greatest RSO, and worked my way into their leadership despite having no prior debate experience in high school. I guess what I'm getting at here is that student organizations are the part of USC that is for us, right? There's the faculty, there's the administration. Many of them didn't even go here, and that's not important, right? As Aiden told me to say that isn't important. It's just that RSOs are the part of this school that is made by us, and we are the part of the school that make this school, okay? So, we are the part of USC that actually is USC, and we are the spirit of USC, and RSOs are the part of USC that actually belongs to us. I already said that. I'm not trying to be stupid, and I'm not trying to be idealistic, so I know that there must have been a reason behind this decision, but I cannot see the reason for the lack of transparency, the lack of warning, and the lack of flexibility, which has stifled the growth of our students and our community here. There must be a better way forward, and the fact that this has happened at all signals that we need to reevaluate this university's outlook on RSOs. What do USC students do best? We get together, we cooperate, and we make ourselves better by making each other better. I want to fight for whatever adjustments are necessary to keep this part of USC spirit alive. Speaking of community involvement, this connects back, trust me. Between USC and Los Angeles, we have a chance to sort of exist within Los Angeles and not above it, right? We have a chance to not be a segregated portion that is seen as, or that sees itself as above Los Angeles in the city that we inhabit, because we are a part of the city and we are a part of the communities that exist here, okay? I think that we have to get more involved, and I think that everybody on Senate thinks that I hear a lot from Elija, and I agree with his platform. I think we have to get more involved, and I think that this involvement, if it's going to be a genuine involvement from the USC community, has to come from the students themselves in the form of encouraging the founding and funding of RSOs with specific goals that face outward towards the surrounding communities around USC. Specifically, I want to use the legislative fund to do this, which is sort of a discretionary lump of money that we can sort of use for projects. So I look forward to possibly working with Elija. I hear him mention similar things. This simple step will change USC's culture and its relationship to LA, and at the same time help Los Angeles become a better place for everyone.
Dane, you're on.
Yeah, thank you everybody. That was my presentation.
Okay, any questions for Dane? Yes, Tess.
Yeah, so I hear you express concern for the lack of advocacy for RSOs and new ones not getting funding or even being able to join this cohort of other organizations. What actionable steps would you take to improve this around the university?
I think that the biggest issue right now is we weren't really aware of the reason for this decision, and also there was no prior warning given to people who were applying to RSOs that maybe like this semester wasn't the semester that to start an RSO. So there were many plans. I was a part of one of them, but that's not the reason why I'm championing this issue. The first that most RSOs or most hopeful RSOs heard about this was when they were rejected. We think that there was definitely a better way to do this, especially with how extensive the process is to apply to become an RSO, to make students jump through all these hoops, find an e-board, write a constitution, just to get blindsided by this eventuality, and such a sweeping eventuality that I think that that's a bad thing, and some transparency would be nice.
Cool. I had a question. The Joint Education Project, Troy Camp, and the Friends and Neighbors, the Volunteer Center are like three of like the largest community outreach initiatives that USC has. Like JEP hosts like hundreds of projects. Troy Camp works with hundreds of like elementary, middle, high school kids in the surrounding community. So when you talk about community service and like extending that and supporting RSOs that do that, like what steps do you want to take to kind of extend work that's already being done through these initiatives?
I guess first off, I want to voice my support for all these programs and why I think that they are great at what they do. But they do exist for particular purposes, right? For example, JEP, Troy Camp, these are specifically aimed at young students in the area of South Central Los Angeles. I think that there is a massive potential to have USC sort of serve as not just like an educational hub for young people, but also information for for I guess adults, and also for sort of resources that can sort of revitalize the area around us, right? So not just with just young students, but also like committing to the support of the community around us throughout their entire lifetime.
Thank you, Dane.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Next is Heydy and Patrick. Woohoo!
This is way too high for me. Do I start now?
Whenever you start.
Oh, okay. All right, so let's get right into it. So hi, my name is Heydy Vasquez, and here's Patrick.
Oh, hi, I'm Patrick.
I'm running, we're going to be your USG senators. So let's just get right into it. So just a little introduction about myself. My name is Heydy Vasquez, with majoring in legal studies. Here are a couple of the organizations I'm a part of. I was born in Mexico, but I am raised at Echo Park, Los Angeles, so I represent Los Angeles very, very proudly. So yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Patrick. I'm a current sophomore. I'm also part of the First Generation Student Assembly. I serve as the advocacy liaison. And yeah, really excited to get to know more about our platform and talk more about ourselves.
So yeah, let's just get right into what we aim to do as senators. So we are we're aiming for these three big things: affordability, inclusivity, and merit. Those are our main points that we want to amplify and just carry on through the roles as a senator. So as for affordability, it looks more of these three main things: affordable parent weekend, integrate basic needs into my USC, and promote financial assistance programs. I think these are just some of the three, but one of the major points I do want to touch on is just affordable parent weekend. I think that every student deserves to have their parent here, and I know financially looks a little bit different for out-of-state students, whether that be the plane ticket, hotels. So we aim to create a fee waiver. I know that there is a 25% off or just a discount, but that doesn't count the cost of football tickets, and just the whole experience in general shouldn't just be limited to those who can afford it. It should be inclusive to all those who are USC students. I know that I was pretty bummed out when I couldn't. Well, my parents are from here, but I was pretty bummed out my parents couldn't experience that. So yeah.
Yeah, Then moving on to inclusivity, how we basically decided this was based on past events that we wanted to address. One of the main things that I want to touch on is addressing real-time cases at USC. Within Senate, I think one thing that we learned from Senate is that addressing these real-time cases really promotes collaboration and foster the student community to really engage with undergraduate student government. Like Dane just mentioned in his speech about the RSOs not getting approved this semester, I was affected by that as someone who's a founder of an RSO. And so being able to actually have these real-time conversations as a senator with the student community is really important for us, especially when it comes to making information transparent. And then,
So yeah, just one of some of the main points that I know you guys can see it, but I want to be able to let you know about it is just condemning street vendor harassment. I know we've seen this very, very much during USC football games. As a daughter of also who are parents who were street vendors, this is very touching to me. So just condemning that. These are sometimes they are students that commit these acts. And spreading undocumented resources. I am the advocacy liaison for ideas. So just continuing the efforts that I have been pushing for, and just a South Central relation between having the communications department and working with the external affairs department within the legislative branch to really amplify the voices of South Central residents.
And then finally with merit, how me and Heydy decided to make these platform points is based on our experiences being advocacy liaisons. If you guys aren't familiar with what ALs do, they work within the advocacy branch of USG and also in the legislative branch. And we basically work to advocate for our communities through many projects, work with our programming assemblies, with events. It's a really versatile role, and basically how we decided these platform points is based on those experiences. One thing I want to touch on is the First to Fight on Survival Guide, which is basically a guide for first-gen students to when they're coming into USC, whether it's a transfer, a spring admit, or an incoming freshman, having a set specific list of resources that are specific for first-gen students, like how do you appeal for financial aid, or what are the RSOs that support first-gen students on campus, or what even is the First-Gen Student Assembly, or USG. This survival guide would basically be your guide to doing that at USC. Then lastly, creating the First Generation Leadership Summit, working with our program assembly, specifically things like FGSA and working with ideas. One of the main things that we learned from last semester with our Wish Upon a Star event with FGSA is that it went really well because of the celebration of first-gen students and their successes. And so keeping that kind of tradition alive and creating visibility for first-gen students is really important for our platform.
Patrick. And yeah, these are just our main points. And thank you so much. And yeah, here's a QR code to see more about more specifics about. We have 4 minutes to present. So these the QR code is basically a link to which links to our campaign. So if you want to find out more specifics about it, that is it. So yeah. Thank you.
Okay, questions for Heydy and Patrick? Yes, Klarissa.
Yeah, so when I sort of first came up with this idea and I was drafting it, I was thinking, okay, so who are the current kind of stakeholders within USC's ecosystem to kind of get assistance from? One of the main things that I think would be really important is touching with our cultural RSOs that are promoting sort of the cultural events here on campus and cultural identities. For example, the first-gen identity is very versatile in the sense that there's different intersectional identities that relate to it. So really working with these cultural RSOs would be obviously very important. And then secondly, working with the First-Gen Success Center, of course, to help print out these survival guides and distribute them to students, as they are the main kind of communicators with first-gen students when they come into USC. Yeah.
Other questions? Oh yeah, Deanna, go for it.
I know that you all have been pretty active in your advocacy liaison role, and I see the way that you guys fight for your communities. I just wanted to know how you plan to continue that relationship once you become senators.
Yeah, so I think just given my role, I know it's to support the immigrant community here on campus, but given just the obviously living through that experience, I've gotten to understand the feelings and emotions of other students, whether they be undocumented or not. So I think just taking that advocacy work that I've done for my community and moving that towards to every student, whenever there's even if it's just one student within that group that identifies with a specific identity, whenever there's one student, there needs to be a resource for them. I know that USC constantly praises on fighting inequality by one acceptance at a time, but I believe it's one resource at a time. And just amplifying intersectionality between USG and between cultural orgs and the projects that we do. Many first generation students aren't documented, many trans students aren't documented, many students are, there's just so many intersectionalities, and I feel like we need to really address these within our projects, and just when we're addressing real-time cases and how they affect overall the student population.
Okay, next we have Jeremiah.
All right. Hi, everyone. There we go. Are we good? All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeremiah, and I'm running for USG Senate. I'm a first-year student here, majoring in legal studies. Not mentioned in the slides. I'm also president of Parkside IRC Community Council, which has been really just very community-based and programming, and is very enjoying to be able to interact with the student body. Okay, so a question that I have been asked is, why did I choose to run for Senate? And for me, it's simple, because I'm reminded of our USG purpose statement located in our Constitution of our undergraduate. And that is, we, the undergraduate student government of the University of Southern California, are the representative voices of undergraduate student body. USG does have the power to be able to transform students' lives for the better. And we must be able to come together and to be able to cultivate this environment that is able to get issues that arise and find real solutions to those issues. In order to be able to have a government that works for the people, we must be able to address the biggest barrier that I think faces as a freshman, right, is the lack of transparency between the student body and USG. Transparency is a big part in executing the things that we need for our fellow Trojans. And coming from a freshman perspective, it seems that USG is very distant from us. Now, of course, freshmen cannot vote in, USG office holding positions, but it's very important because their views and their, identities do matter. It's important that we be able to look at these and find, a way that we could be able to represent all of the student body, because, this is a government that is for students, run by students, And so some of the things that I think that we should be able to work on with transparency is creating an easy and effective way for students to be able to understand what USG is doing in the chambers or just in projects and stuff like that. A resource page for students to be able to find on-campus job opportunities is very important. I know with rising costs and financial insecurities, that is something that a lot of students are trying to understand, and that is something that does need to be addressed. Providing transparency with how USG is handling the funding and being able to relay that to students, having a live for students to be able to see what type of projects that USG is working on, and becoming more accessible for students. I know there senators and USG officials have office hours, but just to make that more relevant for our student body. Another thing that I think is important that we need to address is financial or food insecurities on campus. It was mentioned that bureaucratic rules kind of slow the process, and so my idea was creating a vending machine on campus that's compatible with our USC meal plan to be able to have 24/7 access for those late night studies. Seeing if we could be able to try to lower the cost of USC's current meal plan that is right now, or at the very least make it more open to better options here at USC. For students with dining dollars, seeing if there's a way that whatever funds weren't used for that term to be able to have that reimbursed or transferred over to the next semester, and to promote a healthier and sustainable option in our USC dining halls is another issue. And then some student programs that's already been created by USG already, and I just want to continue to voice my opinion and my support, is the laundry stipend and basic needs for our student. Basic needs is essential, and just to be able to, for students to be able to feel comfortable accessing proper hygienic, needs that we all need is very important. Expand the Trojan Closet initiative to be able to allow students to feel more comfortable, being able to come and acquire some professional attire, a program to be able to better connect USC students with South Central LA and just be able to get them out and just to be able to be a part of our community more, be more outgoing, be more involved in our community.
Jeremiah.
Yeah. And yeah, thank you. So.
Okay, questions for Jeremiah.
Okay, that's one.
Questions for Jeremiah. Okay, I have a question. So you talked a lot about, making sure that USG elected officials are accessible to students. So what would be your ideal sort of way to, how would you make yourself accessible to USC students?
Some ways that I plan to make myself more accessible is through social media. Social media is a very powerful platform that we could use to be able to stay in touch with students. But also I plan to keep an open Google form for any requests or accommodations or just concerns that students have to be able to voice their opinions, and just to be able to have transparency, to be able to know that there's government that's run by students is fighting for Trojans. That's, a campaign slogan that I have adopted, and I haven't just adopted it just because it's a slogan that I am passionate about, is fighting for Trojans to be able to make a difference in our lives, because USG does have that power to make a difference in our students' lives. So yeah.
Other questions for Jeremiah? Yeah, Patrick.
I definitely love the idea of having a 24-hour mission to promote access to food. I can't wait for 3 most week. So my question is how would you assess what foods would be provided in the mission?
So there are many companies and stuff that do have healthier options, or sandwiches, just a basic. It's not going to be a 5-star meal, but it's going to be something to kind of hold you over. So because the dining halls do close at a certain hour, and restaurants around here do close. So it's just to be able to provide students with something in their stomach while they're studying for exam, midterm, just things like that. So yeah, and making that compatible with, seeing if there's a way, a legislative approach or through a project, to make it compatible with our USC dining meal plan. That is something that we're paying for, and that's something that I think we could reevaluate. Yeah.
All right, next is Michaela and Seva.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
That'll do. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out today. My name is Michaela Bautista.
And my name is Seva, Raman.
And we're running to be your next year's USG Senators.
We're so excited to share our platform with you today, but first we're going to start with some introductions.
As I've said before, my name is Michaela Bautista. I'm currently a sophomore studying business administration here at USC Marshall. I'm from Seattle, Washington, and I currently serve as the deputy aide to the vice president in USG.
Like I also said, my name is Seva Raman. I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm a sophomore majoring in political science, and in USG, I am the executive aide to the president.
We're so excited to share our 3 pillars of the platform today. We're working on transparency, affordability, and inclusion.
So first, under transparency, Mikaela and I want to revitalize the USG Senate Instagram page. In the past year, USC Senate implemented an Instagram page, but unfortunately, Mikaela and I found that it wasn't as active as we had hoped. So next year, we plan to revitalize the page and post more updates about what's going on in Senate and who your representatives are.
Second, Seva and I want to develop a housing index and guide. I'm sure it's that time of year where students are scrambling to find housing for next year, and we want to ensure that students know all of the options available to them. So whether that's on-campus or off-campus housing, we want to make a guide that shows every single place around the neighborhood, rates, and occupancy.
And then finally, we want to develop a work-study index. Me personally, I am a recipient of work-study, and as I started in the process of finding a job on campus at the beginning of the year, I was met with a lot of silence from employers, even after I attended the work-study job fair. And once I finally did receive a job at the USC ticket office, I realized that a lot of my peers had the same experience and weren't able to find jobs as easily as they had hoped. So Mikaela and I plan to put together an index of all of the jobs available on campus, their wages, job descriptions, and other important information to make it easier for students who are recipients of this grant. Next, under affordability, we want to implement dining dollar rollover. At schools like UT Austin and NYU that are kind of similar to USC, dining dollars expire at the end of the year opposed to at the end of each semester like they do at USC. And Mikaela and I kind of want to transition to this system in order to make sure that students receive the most value for the payments that they do make at the beginning of the year.
Second, we want to establish a textbook resale market. Textbooks are incredibly expensive here at USC. I would know I've yet to buy a $200 textbook for my real estate finance class because of the steep cost. And so we want to ensure that students are able to connect with students who have taken that class before, have purchased that textbook, and so they're able to buy the textbooks at a cheaper price. Finally, our third pillar of our platform, inclusion. And so this project is a personal favorite of mine, as Seva and I both came here last January as spring admits. And in my experience, USC did a great job at providing these events for spring admits. However, I feel like spring admits weren't able to take advantage of that opportunity because the events weren't catered towards college students. And so we want to improve these events and ensure that students are able to make genuine connections with each other.
And then finally, Mikaela and I want to encourage collaboration across programming assemblies. As USC grows more diverse each year and new assemblies are integrated, we think it's important for these groups to work together in order to increase their strength. So whether that's sharing things like contacts, vendors, or other resources, we think it's important for them to learn from each other and to really communicate in order to maximize their potentials as groups that represent the diverse student body of USC. And then finally, this is just a bit of a manifestation of what Mikaela and I want to achieve next year. As you can tell through our platform, a lot of the projects that we have are tangible and things that we can kind of do and take into our own hands. So Mikaela and I really want to dedicate our term next year to affecting the change that we want to see on campus.
Thank you so much for listening, and vote for Michaela and Seva.
Thank you.
Any questions for Michaela and Seva? Yes, Yoav.
Love your guys' platform, first of all. Awesome, very, very practical solutions. I want to know more specifically about the dining dollars solution. If, dining for whatever reason isn't receptive to a solution like that, do you guys have like a good program that you want to kind of tackle on the side of food insecurity?
Yes, thank you for that question. I do think, like a lot of the candidates have said, the system at USC is very bureaucratic, so it is likely that we do face challenges like that in the process of achieving this change, but I think there are many alternatives to making food and dining on campus more accessible and affordable. Like one of the candidates before mentioned, making a vending machine available with cheaper options for students. Obviously, things that are in vending machines aren't always the healthiest, but I know there are pushes to implement more healthy and sustainable vending machines, so that could be a possible solution.
I think also providing a stipend as a form of reimbursement would also be helpful for students who have already paid that cost at the beginning of the year.
Other questions for Michaela and Seva? Yes, Connor.
I think definitely the spring admit orientation, investing in that. Mikaela and I have a lot of passion for that project because we directly experience the implications of kind of the disparity between fall admit orientation and spring admit orientation. So I think, planning in those events is something that Mikaela and I are going to do and kind of meet with the people who can make that change happen.
Thank you so much.
Oh.
All right, next we have Akshay.
Hi guys, hope you can hear me okay over here. So my name is Akshay. I'll just start by, just introducing a bit about myself, past experiences, and then just moving on to, why I'm running my platform. So my story kind of starts in Boston. I was born there, and my kind of life has been filled with a lot of traveling. I moved at the age of 4 to Delhi, India. And 15 years later, USC was really nice enough to offer me a really good scholarship and came back here in 2021. And I would just start by with what my why is. And my purpose is really just not just succeed in any endeavors that I pursue, but it's to just make a positive difference in every conversation I have. And this kind of propels me forward, and it just defines who I am and my why. And I'll start by why I'm running, and the motivations were just kind of more around the inequities in our student body at USC. Some of the key observations that I've had in these past few years have really been touching, and I can straight get into more why my core platform. And number one is more equity and access. The biggest issue at USC I see is that the student that's very well off is super well off, and the student that doesn't have any resources at all. It's that large gap in the middle that I'm trying to target towards, and it's more about people's expectations when coming to USC. And I wanted to start by more a club recruitment policy reform. When students start off at USC, they kind of feel catfished because there's all these expectations with joining clubs, but people slowly realize how competitive clubs are to get into here, and this is an issue that's being tackled by Mr. Garrett, who's the dean of the Marshall School, but still I feel there's some student involvement that's necessary in order to push forward in equity and access for club recruitment as well as financial support programs as well. Coming on to economic inclusion, there were some really great ideas discussed earlier. Especially with textbook sharing. It does get difficult though, with companies like McGraw-Hill using a rental-based platform. So you're essentially paying $100 for a semester to rent a textbook, which is really crazy. But there's some solutions that I've found particularly useful, such as one of my friends created a software platform where essentially you can one person buys a text in the class and kind of share it with everyone. So there's plenty of ways of solving problems. I think. I kind of pride myself on being able to solve any problem given to me, and I kind of want to do that for USG next. And coming to my third platform, it's more enhancing student caliber. USC kind of has this reputation of just it's a great school, but it's more about providing more mentorship opportunities across the board. The way that USC is structured, it's very fragmented. In terms of USC Marshall cares about more of their own reputation, Viterbi cares more about its own reputation, and that's a problem across many universities in America. So it's by bridging all of them together, for leadership development, community service, as well as personal growth for students, which is very important in college. Coming to a major point of my platform, growing across borders, I kind of noticed that I was really surprised to come to Los Angeles and to see, the levels of food waste, food insecurity that students face here as well. There's some really great ideas of the vending machines that were discussed today. And I wanted to establish some new projects, especially revolving food banks, outside of campus, where students can leave, unused foods for anyone to basically access. So reducing food waste was one of the major platforms. And mental health, environmental responsibility was also one of my major core platforms as well. And I would just like to end with there's a lot of involvement that I've had with entrepreneurship and venture capital, and I hope to bring them to all members of our USC community, not just Marshall and Viterbi. With that's it from my end. Really happy to take any questions, delve into any points further.
Okay.
Any questions for Akshay? Yeah.
I wanted to ask about your food waste initiative and to what extent USG has the power to mitigate food waste coming from the university, not individual students. And what do you do to address that?
Yeah, of course. So it's, I think, in with the food waste, coming back to that, like, my vision was more so like having a food bank system in which you have corners of campus where there are like tables set up essentially, where people can leave like unused foods. You can use unused foods to drop it off. Like kind of if you remember when you're moving out of like your apartments at the end of the year, all USC housing collects a lot of food. That they go out and donate. It's essentially kind of doing that, but it's a food bag that can be accessed by anyone, just like a helping hand for anyone.
Other questions? Yes, Patrick.
Kind of talking about your initiative on increasing licensing and entrepreneurship opportunities here at USC, and I like that you also mentioned how it's been an internship program as for departments like here at USC. So kind of how do you think, what are the steps needed to kind of tap into like LA's and seeing as their ecosystem to create internship opportunities?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the opportunities are kind of fragmented right now. Like, so we have like the CAP mentor program at Marshall. We have like, VCs coming in and currently this club called Trojan Venture Society here. And one of the biggest things that I've noticed that help a lot is actually like speaker events on Zoom specifically, because you can get really quality people to come in at those points. And I think it's more the distribution is what we need to work on, is just like the access of like this message that gets put out to everyone. And that really comes with like, newsletters and those types of things. And like I'm currently subscribed to like 10 newsletters at USC, just to get access to information from each different school. So you might have to like create like a centralized newsletter or centralized news platform combining the academic opportunities across major schools.
Thank you, Akshay.
All right. Last but not least, Deanna and Jackalyn.
Hi everyone, I'm Jackalyn Karamanougian. I'm a freshman here at USC. I'm a political science major, and currently within USG I serve as a Senate aide to Senator Melendez.
Hey everyone, my name is Carpio and I'm currently a senator. Before that I was actually a legislative aide, and I think that is going to provide a lot of context for some of the projects that we will all be collaborating on in the future as senators. I'm currently a sophomore studying cognitive science and international policy and management. Okay, so I know we all have a lot of acronyms, but we really chose LEAD because we think this helps us connect with students by listening, advocating, empowering, and developing.
So the L in our acronym for LEAD stands for Listening to Student Voices. Deanna and I plan to establish regular town hall meetings to engage in open dialogue. So these town hall meetings will serve as a space for students to address their concerns, ideas, or questions directly with their senators. And separate from, let's say, Senate open forum or discussion, these town hall meetings are separate so that they can serve as a space for all student concerns to be addressed and not ignored. Next would be to invite RSOs and assemblies to our office hours to facilitate open and genuine discussions. This would be a really personal way for Deanna and I to connect with RSOs and assemblies and take their ideas and opinions into consideration for our decision-making processes. We'd also want to create an online platform for anonymous suggestions and feedback. We recognize that some students might not feel comfortable coming in person to office hours or speaking up at Senate. So this is a way to make sure that their voices and opinions are still heard. We plan to maintain our Instagram account to listen to student suggestions and keep them updated on our projects. And based on the feedback we receive from these initiatives, we'd be prepared to reform any USG current structures based on the feedback and to make sure that these initiatives are taking into account the constant evolving nature of USG and the student body. E in LEAD stands for Empowering Student Initiatives. We plan to maintain open communication channels to keep students informed about available resources and opportunities. So again, through our Instagram, we think social media is a very powerful tool in holding us accountable and ensuring transparency within our platform. We also plan to encourage initiatives that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. So initiatives in this regard could include workshops and events to promote awareness, raise awareness, and understanding within the student body. We'd also support the creation of new RSOs. We recognize the vital role RSOs have in representing students, and by supporting the creation of new RSOs that students bring to our attention, we're ensuring that our campus is inclusive for everybody. And then finally, we want to streamline the process for proposing and implementing student initiatives. So we could do this by simplifying the procedures for, let's say, starting and executing a project, and consolidating guides about who to contact. And this will make students in and out of USG feel less intimidated and more empowered to take on projects that they might have not done so otherwise.
And so for advocating, we want to make sure that we're specifically having students give us their feedback through those feedback forms we'd be implementing in the project proposal process. We also have a specific goal to work with administration and have buildings be ADA compliant and make sure they're consistently passing ADA compliance tests, making sure that we're including all students on campus, and making sure that there's mobility access. We want to make sure that we're connecting with students and that we're advocating for needs that are relevant to USC and relevant to what is in the capacity of USG to handle. To develop, we want to make sure that we're collaborating with everyone. We want to make sure that we're, again, doing feasible projects and that we're trying to see how we can get the most resources out to the most amount of students. I mentioned earlier that my experience as a legislative aide prior to becoming a senator has helped me because I've seen a lot of these projects in the process kind of stall a little bit, maybe because they didn't have enough feedback or because they didn't consider all the possibilities. I think that this is one way we can develop that a little bit more and just help out people get projects out in a way that doesn't get shut down earlier on in the process.
Deanna, you're out of time.
If you would like for more updates, you can scan the QR code. But yes, we are open to any questions.
Okay, any questions for Deanna and Jackalyn? Hey, I have a question. So you talked about supporting the creation of new RSOs. There's currently over 1,000 RSOs on campus, across all the different, pretty much any RSO you could think of. So what sort of things are you looking for when you're thinking of supporting the creation of new RSOs?
Yes, so I found out at the same time that everyone else kind of found out about this RSO stall. And I was talking about this with certain friends about what if there was a tier system to RSOs. I know certain RSOs are only looking for space, certain RSOs are looking for funding, certain RSOs are looking for both. Kind of revitalizing the definition of an RSO within our USG capacity, and also making sure that students who just want the space can have the space and still exist, and students who want the funding are going through the appropriate measures to actually stay compliant with that.
Other questions? Time for one more. Anything at all? Yes, Patrick.
Laundry stipend is my pride and joy. I love all the support and feedback that I've gotten from the student body and also the people within USG who've really encouraged me to look into different avenues as well. I know that right now we're getting over some major hurdles and we're hopefully going to get that out soon. So I think just experiencing the whole process beginning to end and really seeing not taking no for an answer, and making sure that we continue advocating for basic needs that students are clearly interested in. I know that other senators have also, or other future senators have also mentioned how much that idea would impact basic needs across all of campus.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so that concludes all of our Senate presentations. So let's give a round of applause for all of the Senate candidates. So now we're going to transition to setting up for the presidential debate. So if the 4 tickets could come down here, you can each grab, there's 4 sets for y'all, so you can pick where you want to sit. to the 2024 USG Presidential Vice Presidential Debate. My name is Nivea Krishnan. I'm the Chief Justice of USG, so basically that just means I run elections, which has been super fun so far. Just some housekeeping things real fast. If you can make sure your phones are like on Do Not Disturb, so if they ring, we don't hear them.
I encourage you all to be respectful of one another and uphold the university's unifying values as you engage in dialogue with one another. So thank you and have a good evening.
Okay, so just to walk through kind of how it's going to work, this is for like candidates reference, but also for the audience. We're gonna have like a couple different sections. So we'll start off with opening statements. So each ticket will get a minute max to speak. At a minute, you'll get like a hard cutoff. So I know with the Senate presentations, I was like a little more lax, but we're gonna be pretty strict on this. So just like, I would say also each candidate and ticket can have like a phone to time. So I'd really encourage you to please time yourselves. I don't wanna have to cut you off. So 1 minute per ticket for opening statements. Then we'll get into some like just general questions, and how that will go is each ticket will have 45 seconds to answer, and we'll just alternate between going from this way and then this way. So you'll have some time to think about what you want your answer to be, but we'll like alternate the order so that it's fair. Then we'll get into like a little break with some like fun little quiz questions, and then we'll get into a substantive section where we talk about like campus topics. So things from Greek life to public safety to free speech on campus, student mental health, all of that good stuff. And then we'll open it up to some audience questions. Again, that'll be based on questions that you submit. So with Senate, I had you raise your hand, but for this, we're submitting questions in advance. So again, that's why the note cards are there. And then, each ticket will have a minute to have some closing statements. So that'll be how it goes. Fun agenda for today. So I'm gonna go take my place over there, and that's where I will be the rest of this. So no one will be using this podium. It'll just be us. So without further ado, we'll get started with opening statements. So each ticket will have 1 minute for opening statements. And we will start with Dastiny and Abatha.
Shirley.
Yeah, take it.
Slide over the whole stand. The cord is pretty long. So.
Okay, thank you.
So hi, I'm Abatha. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm Dastiny.
And I'm Abatha, and we're here to be your change makers and trailblazers. Our first and foremost, we want to talk about student basic needs. A lot of people here have talked about food insecurity and housing insecurity, and that is our main priorities. It's the establishments that already support us in that regard are heavily under supported, and we want to make sure that they're having the proper support to operate in higher functionality. Our second is the removal of culturally insensitive statues such as the Hitler tree across from the bookstore.
And I'd also like to talk about the Greek life, and we are adamantly against Greek life. I want to acknowledge the fact that it is built on racist and sexist origins, and it continues to be perpetuated to this day. And we're also backing and supporting divestment here at USC because it's one of the things that we can do to support people across the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Next, we have Julianna and Klarissa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julianna Melendez, running to be your future USG president.
And I'm Klarissa Palacios, running to be your future vice president.
We'd like you to imagine a USG you can trust. Our mission is to establish an undergraduate student government you can trust by prioritizing projects and policies that put you, the student body, at the forefront.
Through transparent communication rooted in our commitment to serve by listening, We are determined to lead your student government with reliability and responsibility while fostering unity and empathy in all of our and your advocacy endeavors. Upon acceptance to our university, everybody deserves to feel confident in the fact that they can be adequately supported here. Unfortunately, that hasn't always been the case.
It's my personal belief that as a Trojan, you should feel confident in your ability to call USC a home for however long you're here.
Vote for us,
And we'll fight on for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julianna and Klarissa. Next, we have Sam and Krishnan.
Hello, my name is Sam. I'm running for your USG president. And we just want to emphasize, the role of USG. It's to represent the student interests and advocate for their needs. And that's exactly what Krishnan and I want to do, is we want to serve you guys. And we want to make it our duty and re-emphasize the point that in these positions, we're not above the student body, we're in the heart of it, and we're listening to all of your voices.
Like you said, my name is Krishnan Shaw. I'm running for vice president. I wanted to first say hi to my mom. She's right there, I think, watching, so thank you. But to emphasize what he's saying, we're really here to serve you guys. The whole student body, without us, without the student body, we wouldn't be up here. We really care about you, and you guys just need to succeed. If the student body is succeeding, then we succeed as a student government. So as we keep emphasizing, the word service is what we're really trying to hone in here.
Thank you so much. And finally, we have Brian and Bree.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Fernandez. I'm running to be your next USG president.
Hi, my name is Bree. I am running to be your next USG Vice President. And we are running on a platform that's called CARE. It stands for Community Accessibility, Community Accessibility, Representation, and Equity. But our main goal is transparency and bringing that back to the roles of President and Vice President within USG.
A big portion of that is kind of this idea that we've built throughout our campaign trail about letting students know the real capacity and the role that you do have as USG president and vice president. In the past years, when I was here, you look at these candidates and they have so many projects that they're promising when they're not really the ones spearheading these projects. And so I just kind of want to bring a little bit more transparency. We want to ensure that students know the capacity of these roles and what you can actually accomplish within the year term that you have. And overall, it's really just about championing student voices and ensuring that their voices are heard through our jurisdiction as the roles that we are about to entail, hopefully.
Thank you so much. So now we're moving into our next set of general questions, and we will start with Brian and Bree this time and go this way. Oh wait, yeah, sorry. Yeah, we definitely need to introduce ourselves. So to introduce the panel themselves, I will start with Tess.
Hello, I'm Tess Patton. I am the executive editor of Annenberg Media and excited to get to learn more about each of you.
Hello, my name is Anjali Patel, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the Daily Trojan. And like Tess mentioned, just excited to be here and hear you guys' platforms.
Yeah, you already know me, so I'm not going to introduce myself again. I won't be redundant. But yeah, no, super excited to be partnering with the Daily Trojan and Annenberg Media on this. Shout out to Annenberg Media also for live streaming. Shout out Graham and the live streaming crew. So yeah, that's super exciting. For any of your friends at home, by the way, they can go to the Annenberg YouTube channel and the USG debate will be there so they can live stream it. It'll also be recorded, so it'll live on there as well. So now we'll get into the panel, and yeah, we'll still start with Brian and Bree and go that way. And reminder, you'll have 45 seconds from here on out. If any ticket mentions your ticket by name, you will also have a right of reply of 30 seconds. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, so our first question is, why do you each believe that you are the best ticket for president and vice president of USG? And we'll start with Brian and Bree.
In my role as vice president, I believe that we are the most qualified ticket just because I have been in the legislative branch throughout my entire time at USG, first as a committee member and then now as committee chair. So I've really gotten to see the ins and outs of how the legislative branch works. So in my role, I'm really hoping to not spearhead projects because we don't want to give any false promises out to the students, but to oversee all the projects that happen within the legislative branch and ensure that they are all feasible and working smoothly and the whole legislative branch is efficient.
And for the presidency, I think just my past roles in different organizations have allowed me to really kind of see the projects that kind of want to get done by students and how we can work with the administration to do that as the president of USG.
Thank you so much. Sam and Krishnan.
Yeah, so I just want to emphasize the passion that we have for these positions. I've been a part of student government since the 3rd grade, including every semester I've been here at USC. And Krishnan and I just truly, like he said, give back in service. Those are huge, huge pieces of our platform that we want to emphasize, and we truly just care. These are some of the best years of our life, and we want to make sure that this is the best possible environment for those years.
And I think adding to that is the word passion. I think when Sam and I put our minds to something, we're going to go in and day out and make sure that that happens, whether that means listening to people, holding these town hall meetings, but like we said, just giving support to the rest of student government so that they can execute the projects that they need to that affect the student body.
Thank you so much. Julianna and Klarissa?
Something I'd really like to emphasize is that USG is our biggest commitment. As a shared experience with many of the other presidential candidates, I've had various years of experience in USG. I started out as a general member on the Accessibility Committee, then chair of the Accessibility Committee, and I am now a senator. Within my professional life, I currently work at the mayor's office in their Office of Immigrant Affairs. I've been a congressional intern. Service and advocacy is something that I'm truly dedicated to, whether it's within the 4 walls of USC or outside in the community.
With USG being our biggest commitment, we want to emphasize that these projects and policies are personal to us because they're personal to you. Every student here at USC faces inequity differently, and because we face inequity differently, it's still a shared experience where we all feel frustrated, and we want to be the bridge for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then Dacity and Abatha.
We're here first and foremost to represent visibly and passionately diversity, and as well as the entire student body, both abroad, on campus, domestic. We want to make sure that we're encompassing the entire student body for who they are entirely.
Yeah, and for us, students are our main commitment, because there can be a perspective where we are outsiders, but truly, we have spent our time building communities within the student community, within these organizations that are actually doing the actual work. USG is funding students, and the students are the ones doing the work, and we are here as a representative of the students in their journeys, in their projects, in their passion, so our passion is their passion.
All right, next question is, what would you guys say is the biggest issue on campus right now, and why are you the best ticket to address that issue? All right. We'll start with Julianna and Klarissa.
You were right.
Yeah.
Something I'd like to emphasize is I believe one of the biggest issues on campus at the moment is the transactional relationship between USG and students, specifically RSOs. USG at this moment is framed as the source of funding for RSOs and nothing more. So once we run out of funding or we have issues with funding, we essentially don't redirect RSOs into a different direction to still get their needs met because they contribute to such a vibrant community on campus. We wouldn't have student life without them. I think we need to reframe that transactional relationship to where we're more than just like giving you money. We actually give you the resources that you need, which include the very much needed money.
Thank you. And then next, Dacity and Abatha.
So to kind of start, our main focus throughout all of our platform is about the students, as I said, and it's student basic needs. We can sit here and talk about, oh, we want to have fun, we want to build a culture, but there's no culture if the students aren't being fed, they're not being housed, and we have organizations here on campus that are already doing the work, that are struggling to the work because USG hasn't been able to fund them, that they haven't been able to get the support they have deserved throughout their work.
Our main thing is that we want to be able to expand our support for our students so that they know that we're here to support them in their basic needs, which means expanding the pantry, for example, which only has a small hallway that supports the entire student body and helps feed them, which we feel is does not support the student body to the needs that they need.
Surely.
Thank you. Next will be Sam and Krishnan.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem that we believe that USC student body is facing is different groups kind of pitting against each other, as well as the clickiness that this campus has, whether that be through majors or schools or just different RSO groups. we need to remind each other that we are all part of one big Trojan family. In order for that, we need to be proud that we're all Trojans and remember that we are united under that Trojan family.
And yeah, I mean, some tangible things that we could do is, hold these town hall meetings, meet with different RSO leaders. And at institutes like Cornell, during 2021 in the pandemic, they reallocated some funding within the student government as well as reassessed some student assemblies in the restructuring, and they have cited that has slightly worked. So looking at different successes from other universities and trying to implement them here.
Thank you. And then Brian and Bree.
One of the biggest issues that we see on campus is a lack of understanding and a lack of acknowledgement of students that aren't visibly represented in our Senate, in our student government, because as one of the previous candidates had mentioned in for Senate, freshmen do not vote. Freshmen do not have an equal representation as other people do on this campus. And the way we fix that is by going to them. We all talk about town halls. We all talk about expanding our resources to these students, but students are nervous. Students have this kind of barrier between them and actually meeting with administrations. The roundtables, the talks all work if we actually go to the students, if we go to these RSOs that students are already a part of where they feel comfortable in order to talk about the issues that they care about, whether that be DPS, whether that be accessibility, whether that be sustainability. Any of these issues, we need to go out to them, to things and places where they are already comfortable as they are.
Cool. Yeah, quick just clarification. Freshmen are allowed to vote in the election.
Sorry.
Just want to make that clear. Please vote.
Thank you. My question for each of you is, what is the most ambitious initiative that you will tackle if elected USG president? And we'll start with Sam and Christian.
I think something that we've been talking about, all of us have, but is food accessibility. And I think I've been working on projects. I've had stalls with with administration on it. But I think not stopping there, but going out to other local vendors, going to place in the village and trying to get student discounts, buy one, get one offers, maybe student nights at certain restaurants around campus, so that we can't put all of the stress on the school, but trying to work with the community around us to get more food accessibility, healthier food options, as well as cheaper food options, so that not only are we giving back to the community, but we're helping our students as well.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Brian and Bree.
One of the biggest or tangibles we are kind of tackling within our role is an STI test line item. In my role as wellness chair, along with current speaker Seigel, we have worked to ensure that STI tests are free of cost for actually now. So if y'all want to go get STI tested, you guys can go get STI tested free of cost. But incorporating that in as a line item for each semester, along with collaborating with GSG on getting the funding for this. We believe like basic necessary resources should be accessible and free to students. So although we pay a pretty hefty student health fee and some of us are on our current insurance, we still wouldn't be able to get STI tested free of cost.
Thank you. Next, we will have Dasti and Apatha.
So for us, ambitious-wise, we like to think about Greek life. And first of all, Greek life, when we talk about Greek life, people in frats are 3 times more likely to rape. And that's a cold hard fact. And when we here at the school are talking about diversity, when we're talking about social life, we don't need these institutions for us to have a social life, for us to be able to be a community. And now that we have disaffiliated frats, they're actively avoiding accountability. And for us to be sitting here and talking about things that are arbitrary when we're actually talking about people's like safety, women's safety, I think that we need to really focus on that as our issue.
Thank you. And last but not least, Julianna and Klarissa.
In terms of ambitiousness, something that we really want to emphasize is positioning USC as a trailblazer in advocating for otherwise overlooked communities here at our school. This begins with something like disability accessibility training, which is very personal to me as a student with a disability. Currently, there is no standard of accessibility training prior to teaching for our professors. And currently, that's something I'm working on as senator. With Senator Melendez, she is working on a no-stats workshop that will be taking place tomorrow. So with these endeavors, we want to continue expanding USC as a trailblazer and advocating for other minority student groups. Thank you.
Okay, now we're getting to some quiz questions. Initially, I was gonna direct these towards the candidates, but I almost want to do it towards the audience, but now I'm like, I don't know.
Wait, are they gonna buzz in?
Yeah,
Okay,
or like raise hand, but like, do y'all think we should do it to the audience or to the candidates? Candidates?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, that was my initial plan anyway. So, okay, here's how it's gonna work. I'm gonna ask you a question, and it'll be the first person to raise your hand. So we'll do it that way because there's no buzzer. So unfortunately, the buzzer wouldn't help. You know. Oh wait, no, never mind. I had a different idea, but we're gonna let that go. So I'll ask you a question, and then if you get it right, we have some nice, cool, vintage Vote On shirts back here. So you'll get one of those. I have if you if you answer multiple questions right the first time, you'll get multiple shirts. So you can come up and then pick your shirt from here. Are we ready? Are we committed? Are we ready? Okay, cool. So, first question, how big is the USG budget? Okay, yeah. What's your answer? You guys, it doesn't matter which one of you goes. What'd you say? 2.5 million. That is correct. Round of applause. Everyone should know that. Huge budget. Okay, next question. How many undergraduate students go to USC? Krishnan, I saw you first.
26,000?
Wrong. Julianna and Klarissa? That's not an accurate number. No.
21.
What'd you say?
21,000.
Okay, correct. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Third question. Okay. Okay. No. Okay. Huh? It's fine. Okay. So what are the 3 branches of USG? Okay. Okay, Brian.
Judicial, administrative, and legislative.
Administrative.
Like your executive branch.
Okay, we'll give it to you, but
it's administration.
To be clear, it's executive, legislative, judicial, but we'll give it to you. And then finally, the USC Concerts Committee is part of USG. True or false? We'll ask Sam and Christian this time.
True.
Oh, okay, yeah, you got it. Okay, cool. Okay, yeah, that doesn't really count for anything. We just wanted to break up stuff a little bit. That's a V-neck, so have fun with that. It was really old. And also, you can swap it out if you want, but anyways, moving on. Oh, yeah. Okay, so moving on, we're going to get into our substantive section, so talking about specific topics on campus that all the tickets have referred to already. So again, for this section, it'll be 45 seconds per ticket, but the way we'll direct some of the questions is we're going to isolate. We read all of your platforms, so we're going to isolate specific tickets, bring you into the conversation first, so we'll kind of guide who speaks when. Some of the questions are just the moderated panel where they're general, in which case we'll go in the orders that we've been going. But some of them we are isolating specific ticket questions. But regardless, responses are 45 seconds. Okay, cool.
Thank you. So one of the most contested topics on our campus is Greek life. We have candidates that think that USG should work with the Greek life on our campus, and we have candidates that believe that it should be abolished. So what should USG's relationship be with Greek life? And we'll start with Sam and Christian.
I think pitting any group on campus and trying to abolish them is insensitive. I think to say the issues that are in Greek life are solely there to Greek life is insensitive, and to say that sexual assault only happens to females, as somebody who has been subject to sexual assault as a male, is something that any student on campus should never feel unsafe. So I think working with the UPIFC, who's not affiliated with the campus, is something that USG should do and should have a liaison or some sort of line of communication, as well as working with the Panhellenic of the sororities and working with them to see, keeping updates and tracks and see if they're doing all the compliance that they should be doing. But I think we as student government should stand with any students who go through philanthropic endeavors and want to support themselves and find their network in their community. Should not be something that we go against.
Thank you. And next we'll have Dacity and Abatha.
To my response to that is, we never argued about the fact that men get sexually assaulted. Actually, 78%, men are 78% more likely to get assaulted on campuses, and most of that comes from Greek life. And that's something I would like to highlight. And to say that it's the option of socializing within Greek life or to not socialize at all is undermining the fact that, as Nivea said, we have 1,000 RSOs on campus that are actually focused on, passionate, or specific, are not doesn't share an origin that is made for the white man, that currently is made for the white man. And nothing about, we need to have more gay people, we need to have more people of color in Greek life. That doesn't matter when the Greek life structure itself, institutionally, is having people get sexually assaulted, get hazed.
Sorry, that's time. And then we'll have Julianna and Klarissa.
When it comes to the conversation of Greek life, we want to expand that any conversation with us in an administration will begin with unity and empathy. Any conversation that comes to us, like we said, isn't just personal to us, but it's also personal to you. So whether our stances may be in agreement or disagreement, we take very to heart the circumstances that students come forth with us. On the topic of sexual assault, I've worked with the communications team, and we've had to evaluate our RSVP sexual assault online platform for students in need, and having peers that have gone through that, like, I know that it's not the most transparent and supportive process that it needs to be. So I think rather than focusing on necessarily Greek life, but pivoting towards the resources available and the DEI positions in Greek life, we can better that. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Brian and Bree.
Yeah, so as president and vice president, you are aimed to represent an entire student body. This entire student body is in Greek life. There are students that are in MGCs, D9s, Panhellenic sororities. All these people are still part of USC. They are still students that you are aimed to represent. When you take this role, you are talking about representing every single one despite their interests and despite what they are joining. Yes, there are issues within every single organization that you may join, but your role is to be collaborative and be proactive about the ways you choose to handle situations. The way you talk about things with people, the way you address them, and the way you make them feel is key to ensuring that students feel safe and students feel heard. Making sure that USG is being proactive in engaging with all these different Panhellenic, different cultural Greek life organizations is key for ensuring student success.
Thank you. And as you know, we're live streaming right now, getting questions in from our audience, and also we had questions, a question box at the top of this, and we had one question on Greek life from an anonymous person in the room right now, so I will just ask their question because it's timely. They said, Dacity and Abatha, you say in your platform that you are, quote, uncompromisingly anti-Greek life, given that USG is a democratic institution and the president in particular should represent the will of the people. What do you have to say to the thousands of people involved in Greek life?
Greek life is 30% of USC, and yet they have been able to take the Greek vote and control USG. And I think that that is an insane idea. I just want to bolster what I had said earlier by saying it's not even just about the men. For women, women are 74% more likely to get sexually assaulted if they're living in a sorority house. So I'm over here wondering, how are we protecting these forces? How are we protecting these institutions? How can we say, let's create a conversation with an institution that is disaffiliated? They don't want advocacy. They don't want accountability. They don't want responsibility.
And I just have one follow-up. So what actionable steps would you take if elected president?
First of all, I think that we need to come together as a USG and really think about in what ways are we supporting and what kind of ties do we have to Greek life. I think first of all, us being here should not have happened, but we are, because we are not the Greek vote, and I'm proud of that. And when we get into the policies of it, I think we really need to look at what we have and begin to reframe and talk about like, how are people being affected, first of all, damage control by Greek life.
Thank you. And we're going to move on in a second, but if anyone else has follow-ups from those questions, yes, Julianna and Klarissa.
I would like to affirm what we said earlier, that with any student interest that comes to us, like we will be advocating and listening to your interests. When it comes to Greek life, I do want to take kind of like a personal introspective look at it. I mean, personally, I feel like I was introduced to Greek life as an affordable alternative to looking at luxury housing off campus. So when it comes to, I would say, eliminating an institution that provides housing, a lot of students will be displaced if something like that is eliminated. So looking at the positive of what Greek life can offer our students, I know like there are also peers of mine that explore Greek life because of the community that they're interested in. Again, not every organization is perfect, but I know from the Panhellenic side, there has been a beginning for DEI positions within each sorority, and I myself
Thank you,
am not
Klarissa.
in one, but
Sorry.
thank you.
It's time. Okay, one last question before we move on to the next topic. This is for Sam and Christian. Another audience question. Given that IFC fraternities willingly disaffiliated from the university, why is their focus on connecting these specific fraternities to USG and not other councils in Greek life?
So I actually have worked with UPIFC, know their board personally, and I think they're happy with where they're at with the legislation that they've imposed. They have a national backing behind them. They have training modules. They have a whole infrastructure that has been helping work with DPS as well as LAPD. And I think their relationship with the school respects them, and I think they like where they're at as well. But I still think there should still be more representation. There is 30% of our students there. I think they deserve a seat at the table when it comes to student government meetings. So I think to not hear their perspective would be cutting out 30% of the student population, which I do not think we should do.
And again, to reiterate, lots of these disaffiliations, I mean, obviously it was a vote, but lots of them were brought down, trickled down from national level to USC. So it wasn't solely a decision of these fraternities on USC campus. So that's why we definitely don't want to exclude them from talks.
Thank you. Yeah. I'll give Team B&B one last second before we move on.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it also comes down to the roles that we are running for. You are running to be the president and vice president of USG. You're trying to connect that relationship to USG, not necessarily any other council that may be a part of Greek affiliation. So when you work within USG, you are trying to work alongside them, and then you can bring the conversation to the other Greek life organizations, the other councils on campus, in order to kind of start integrating that once again.
Thank you. Okay. Now we'll move on to a different topic. In light of significant current events that have impacted student communities across our campus, specifically talking about some instances last semester, how do you think USG and the university as a whole should balance freedom of speech and expression with student safety as outlined in our university code of conduct? And for this, we'll start with Team Brian and Bree.
Yeah, I mean, as we saw this past semester, a lot of the international crises that was happening, and a lot of the students, a lot of their voices felt silenced, a lot of the students felt like they weren't being heard. And I think a key way to address this is being proactive about situations. I feel like being a senator during this time was really hard. You got the whole backlash of it. You were front-facing, your position was out on the line, and you felt the heat of the moment. And I think that students just wanted to be heard, students want to be seen, And I think Senate is a great start for that. That initial meeting should happen at Senate because that's what it's there for. You are there to represent students, but not everything can be solved within the jurisdiction of USG. You want to make sure that you are working with administration in order to make sure that those steps are taking place rapidly, in order for students to be heard rapidly, their voices to be heard and acknowledged, while also ensuring that their success as a student, because at the end of the day, you do go to university, you are a student first and foremost, is accessible.
Thank you. And let's just go down the line. Sam and Christian.
I think everything Brian just said was accurate. I think having a place of Senate, though, as if I was elected a VP, I would be overseeing the Senate. I think that is a place where these issues should take a foot. I think we need to acknowledge that there's no place for hate, but there's a place to express yourself. Every person should feel comfortable coming into Senate and expressing their feelings. And I think it's the duty of student government, like Brian said earlier, to go out to RSOs, to encourage them to come to Senate meetings, encourage people who feel like they don't have a seat at the table, that they always will and they'll always be heard. But I think it's setting that Senate meetings need to have a place of decorum. We're adults. We need to respect each other. We're all part of this Trojan family. So if you don't have respect for the person next to you, then you shouldn't be discussing these issues. You need to come with an open heart and an open ear in order to discuss these.
Thank you. Next, Julianna and Klarissa.
I think with the conversations that were occurring last semester leading into this semester, there needed to be more focus on being, as a student government leader, on being more proactive instead of reactive. And the situation that I saw as a senator was that students came to voice their concerns and they were told, okay, we'll get to you. We'll do something on the side for you. But the actual basic need that they were bringing up as their concern wasn't addressed. They weren't redirected to meetings with administrators that current people like president and vice president have. They have standing meetings with administrators. You're supposed to be looping in these students into those meetings. If you can't loop them in, at least have them draft a message that you can share with administrators, following up on the initial conversation and that point of contact that students make with you. Instead of leaving them in the dark and saying we'll work on it, you need to be updating them on every step of the process, again with respect of their time and of their concern, because they came to you for a reason.
Thank you. Sorry, that's time.
Personally, our platform is students first, always, and in that regard, we want to make sure that the students who are freely speaking what is on their mind and what is harming them emotionally are also not hurting other people. So in that regard, we want the freedom of speech to be available to people, but we do not want the speech to be generating hate, which is allowing a space where we can have productive dialogue and open conversation that is not too emotionally charged, but also focused on getting an end result in which we can move forward together as a community and continue building that community as a whole in order to better ourselves and understand where everyone is coming from, essentially.
Thank you. And this kind of can go to anyone, but hopefully you all feel inclined to respond. But would you have done anything differently than the previous administration, and if so, how? Or the current administration? Thank you. Julianna and Klarissa.
Hi, so I wanted to acknowledge that the current administration, they did what they could, and I commend them for that. They did have meetings with the students, but it kind of took a more private approach, and for the time being, that did seem like the wisest option. But what I would change or maybe have done differently is look to the broader USC network with alumni or possibly other LA resources that can connect students to what they're asking for, or more communities that are advocating for the same thing on a broader scale than just USC alone, because we have seen administrators say that they're kind of in a very limited space and capacity to take a position, but if we could connect them to outer USC resources, we would have encouraged that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Brian.
I think something that, again, this administration had to work on something that was not seen before. It was brand new administration for them as well. And these issues are something that you don't really anticipate coming into these roles. And you are being expected by the student body to act immediately, which is not something that happens like this. There's processes and systems in place that must be followed. And so I think the administration did a great job in ensuring our safety by following campus activity or administrative kind of regulations and suggestions. It's just a matter of ensuring that students know why these things took place, why we moved on to a Zoom platform, making sure that we were proactive about announcing that and not that we were hiding from the students and hiding their voices during these issues.
Thank you. And do
do you want to go?
Yeah, so similar to like Brian was saying, I mean, the administration did a good job with everything they could do. One thing that I would have changed personally would be, like Krishnan was saying earlier about the Senate meetings. Those are great opportunities for people to come in and discuss and talk. And I think moving to Zoom kind of hindered that process just a little bit. So going back in time, I know obviously you can't change it, but just re-emphasizing these Senate meetings, these town hall meetings, these closed door meetings with the leaders of RSOs, trying to strive towards a common goal and working with both and making sure that they know their voice is heard while also there's no room for hate, just balancing that.
Thank you. And Dusty and Abatha.
I'd like to reiterate on my fact that we are not from USG and we are very proud of that. I think that often USG is so focused on being a mini government that there isn't actual any change happening. And a lot of organizations are sometimes successful not because of USG, but despite. And I think that it's very interesting how we can come here and have the same acronyms, have the same sayings every single election, and yet nobody has given change in the way we need it. It's the same people who are running every year. It's the same people who are like doing the same projects. We have on our platform, we talk about things that are like needed, like right now. And that's what I think is going to set us apart as a USG outsider.
Thank you.
Okay. Quick follow-up question on that. Obviously, like in student government, because it is a mini government, things move really, really slowly. So projects that people start one year can take like multiple years, perhaps their whole time at the school to implement. And in your platform, you do also propose some really big ideas like divestment from the military-industrial complex, abolishing Greek life. So in your mind, how do you want to actually actualize that change that you want to see during your like less than 1 year term in office when there's such big projects?
Yeah, so here's the thing is that for USG, I feel like often people are so disconnected from the community that they're trying to create projects for themselves that they want to do and in the same time, they are not acknowledging that RSOs are already doing the same projects. Divestment seems like a big goal when it's just us two sitting here, but there's already a coalition of people who are working on that. Food accessibility, there's already RSOs that are working together to increase food accessibility. I think that if we take this funding from USG projects and put it into the groups of people who are actually doing the work, that's how we're gonna get it done. And that's how we're gonna make this hierarchical bureaucracy horizontal. And that's how we're going to get change made here at USG.
Thank you. So pivoting a little bit, or entirely actually, to move into a different topic, talking about campus safety. We didn't get any audience questions about this, but it always is like a big topic on campus. And so we'll just do the traditional, we'll go starting with Dastiny and Abbott, then we'll work this way. Our question is, what is your stance on DPS's current relationship with the campus community and the surrounding South LA community?
I think within DPS and the connection between DPS and USC, there's a large disconnect between the student body and DPS as a whole. I feel like we struggle to communicate with them about how we feel about their presence, because even other students here at times feel that there's a sense of profiling and a sense of distrust between the two. So I first and foremost want to have a sense of communication between DPS, which is like forms on both sides in which people can fill out in order to better understand each other overall and to better feel like we can approach each other. And then that will expand into the bigger community. We have a space called the Village because we want to focus on community, but the Village is not the place itself, it's the people, and the people will make the Village what it is.
Thank you. Julianna and Klarissa?
Sorry, stopper.
Okay, we actually had a meeting with a group of international students last week, and we learned that this is actually one of the biggest concerns for international students, seeing as many of them live off campus, is their concern of safety. And I think the number one thing that highlights is the fact that USG is perhaps unaware of how big of an issue this is for students. So first and foremost, I think as an administration, we need to educate ourselves on what communities are most impacted by this issue of safety, and then we can communicate that to DPS. Because if we just start a conversation without being informed of who the communities are, what communities want to be looped in on this conversation, it will lead to very ineffective and untargeted solutions. So I think first and foremost, starting off with the outreach, and we aim to look at safety, but not like the enabling of stigmas and stereotypes that often accompany these conversations. We want to be very mindful of that. So I think that starts with the community outreach first.
Thank you. Sam and Christian?
I mean, first we want to acknowledge the fact that this past semester and this current semester, there has been a rise in crime around campus, and Christian and I have relations to people who have been robbed in broad daylight or crossing Figueroa and beaten up. And like Klarissa and Julianna were saying, it's listening to these stories, working with them and working with DPS to make sure that there's a transparent line of communication and just streamlining that and making sure that both sides are happy and that everyone feels safe on and around campus.
And I think at any point, if there's students that feel unsafe, that there's a real issue. And I think making sure that we aren't bystanders when we see crime, or if there's something of suspicion, that we have a clear line to DPS. I know some of us know there's a number to call, but actually prompting students to actually take that step to contact DPS and work with them whenever they're scared or something comes up, I think is very important.
Thank you. And then Brian and Bree.
We recognize that DPS is not a perfect system, and we also recognize that students do want to feel safe on campus, regardless of their background. The new chief, Chief Loretta Hill, has been working really diligently to ensure that this trust that has been lost in DPS is regained. And Brian and I really want to be part of that effort to ensure that that DPS is able to have the opportunity to regain back their trust and legitimacy with the student government. Both Brian and I were at the roundtable with new Chief Loretta Hill last year. Was it last year? Yeah, last year. And she fully recognizes that this system needs to be reworked. It's just how to do it. So that's our kind of stance on that.
Thank you so much. And then kind of related to community relations, Liam Carl asked from the live stream, right? Liam Carl asked, USC has been a massive force of gentrification and displacement within the South LA area. What will you do to combat this trend or foster a better relationship to the surrounding community? Obviously, you can't solve gentrification, but you can try. But we'll start with Brian and Bree and work.
Yeah, I think a big misunderstanding. A lot of things that get lost is that we are not just USC at UPC at University Park campus. We also have the Health and Sciences campus as well, and both of these campuses are feeling the gentrification. But me and Bree are not from the area. We are from outside or other places in California. So it's really about working with RSOs again that are already doing this job with RSOs that are allowing students to come into USC, helping them with these applications. These are RSOs that are already doing the heavy lifting for us, and it's a matter of us supporting them. In terms of like External Affairs Committee in USG, it's a matter of getting students that are from the area to actually participate in these assemblies or in these committees to ensure that we are doing the work that students are already kind of knowledgeable about, and they know they have a passion and they have a story behind this.
Thank you. Sam and Christian?
Yeah, so I mean, it starts, with organizing events and programs, initiatives, whether it be community drives, different involvement fairs around the community, or broadening JEP programs. And it starts with that by just giving back to the community. Christian and I talked about giving back, and you said it. I mean, we did gentrify South Central LA, and I think it's time we acknowledge that and give back to the community.
Yeah, I think we have these events, we have these football games, and that causes congestion here, and we've been able to use this land without really any grovel by the community around us. So it's time to, take the money that we've gotten from those events and all using this land and be able to give back to them and serve them. I think as student government, that should be a way that we give back to the whole community around us.
I personally really like this question because it gives us an opportunity to amplify groups on campus that already advocate for creating a better bond with the South Central community. Already there are programs like USC Bovard, NIA, Accepted USC, USC Seeds, PEP, JEP, HSF, and recently a vendor alliance program sponsored by one of the people in the crowd today. So if as USG we can elevate these programs that already exist, this all begins with our advertising, our promotion, our communication, and that will be integrated in our strategic plan.
I don't have many seconds to say, but I just want to let you know that we actually do this in our day-to-day jobs. I work on Fisher Fellows. We do workshops to educate the community on how sustainability, a concept that's very often seen as for the wealthy and the privileged, is actually part of many indigenous cultural practices that South Central residents resonate with.
And then Dusty and Abatha.
First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that we are occupiers in this land, whether that be the Gabrielita Tongva tribe, whether that be the people who used to live here South Central. But I would also like to talk about the fact that we are DPS alerts, these ones that we're getting them for every single small thing that happens because we're so scared of people of color. And then there's this division where we're this oasis within a community that has nothing. But the truth is that these people are actually doing work within themselves. And we as occupiers need to support that. And also there, as we said, there are so many organizations on campus such as Scale who has done so many things, such as giving water, giving upkeeping our community fridge. And I don't think that organizations that align with USG are getting the support that they need.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to a different topic.
So Sam and Christian, Brian and Bree, you both have highlighted the importance of student wellness in both of your campaigns. How would you say that your strategies differ in prioritizing wellness for the student population, and what do you think the best approach would be? We'll start with Sam and Christian.
Yeah, so first off, a couple semesters ago, I started a men's mental health initiative club on campus. So firsthand, I've been able to witness, this true epidemic that's going on college campuses of depression, anxiety, just mental health issues that truly go untalked about, and there's so much stigma around them. So first, just acknowledging the fact that people aren't alone. And then on top of that, there's so many initiatives that USC have, whether that be Therapy Plus or different chat systems they have on USC Health, but just using those, pushing out those initiatives, as well as tailing the success of things such as Rest SC, Wellness Week. There was Annenberg Kind Fest for the first time last year. Kind of using these and pushing them out to know that all students are able to join this, all students are able to use these resources, and that they're free. I mean, anyone can use them.
Thank you. And then Brian and Bree.
Yeah, I really like that you mentioned that, Sam. USC has a very comprehensive wellness resources provided to students. It's just they're not well promoted. So that means they're not well utilized and students don't know about them. The reason I kind of threw on this Wellness Week, I don't know if you all know, but it's currently Wellness Week. Kickoff was yesterday, woo! But thank you. But basically, the aim of this week was to ensure that students, all students, undergraduate, graduate, know about the wellness resources provided to them. They are already in your tuition bill. Use them. And basically, USG, my role within the Wellness Committee was to ensure any resource, sexual, mental, emotional, therapy, NOD, you know that all of these. If I mention one that you just didn't know, that there's a reason for that. We need to make sure that we're working with student health to ensure that all these resources are available to students.
Thank you. We'll have Julianna and Klarissa.
When it comes to wellness, we didn't outline it directly in our platform points because, we are constrained to the word count. But one way that we want to continue to exploring and uplifting wellness initiatives here at USC is continuing projects that already have proven to work and support our students, but also acquire students information or acquire students with the knowledge that they're needed at orientation with programs like wellness and things like the student health fee that was promoted with our USG communications department's very informative video. A lot of students don't know that they have these, but they're not just accessible to them. When it comes to things like USC mental health services, like with a therapist, what has been expressed by our student body in the past is having therapists that specialize in these students' very niche needs and identities.
But yeah, that's something that we would like to take part in with wellness.
Thank you. And then Dastiny and Abatha.
Within student wellness, we want to really highlight and focus that students have resource awareness, as well as knowing, like, specifically as a student, as a transfer student, as an international student, as whatever type of student you might be, as a spring admit, that you know what resources are available to you and when and where to get it specifically. So what I really want to push is to have a live document that has that and can share that with people.
I also would like to acknowledge that a lot of these cultural centers are full of people who go there because they need resources, often aren't reached out to by USG in general at all, actually. And so it saddens me when I see like nobody here, or not nobody, but like a lack of people of color, a lack of queer people here at USG. And I think that once we build those connections, we can also give those resources that we have.
Thank you. We did not get any questions about student wellness, so we do have another audience question that we would like to share right now. There's no name, so it's anonymous. This is our first year with ranked choice voting. You will obviously pick yourself as your first choice. Who, if anyone, is your second choice and why? And we'll go the other way down. So we'll start with Dastiny and Abatha.
It's not committal in any way. Like, no one's going to check. But it's just a little fun question. Yeah, it was an audience question, so multiple people did ask. This was not planted. Oh, wait, we're starting with that. Okay, we're starting. You also don't have to take the full 45. Actually, if you could just say the name and no explanation, that would actually be good. What? I can't hear anything you're saying. Oh, sure, yeah. Then you can take the 45 seconds, yeah. But it's still 45 seconds max. So we'll start with Dastiny and Abatha.
And you just want us to say the names? Is that?
You can say the names and explain. Up to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I would put Brian and Brianna just because I feel like a lot of their values and their morals and their general like points of views are very similar to ours, and I strongly support a lot of the care that they put into the community.
Julianna and Klarissa?
We can say it separately. Sorry. We can say it separately. Do you want to? I mean, I'll say it separately. That's fine. Okay. That's fine. So yeah, for Julianna and I, we would also say Brian and Bree, but also because I've gotten the chance to work with Brian personally prior to coming to USC, I know that student government was something that he was genuinely interested in because of the identities that he represents.
Same.
Well, talk about it.
Oh, well, personally, I've worked with Brian as a senator, and I can see how passionate he is about the projects that he works on. So that's why I would choose them. And then Bree, as a wellness chair, has gone like above and beyond her role as a wellness chair. I commend her for that. And for example, Wellness Week is a big old thing that she's worked on. So commend her for that.
Thank you. Sam and Christian?
Yeah, so I'm going to go Julianna and Klarissa, just because I've worked with Klarissa in the comms department. She's amazing. And I've seen some of the work Julianna's done as a senator. And, I mean, they truly, enjoy it. So.
And adding to that, I worked with both of them as senators, and they both have a deep, deep care for this USC school. And I think that's something invaluable as a president and vice president, is somebody who really, really cares. I think they both possess that.
Thank you. And then Brian and Bree?
We would say Sam and Krishnan, just because in terms of Sam, I feel like his involvements in other organizations have put him in a position to know a little bit more about the organization and also his involvements, despite not being in the legislative branch or in the specific executive branch. I think there's still knowledge to be found within each department collaboration.
And I would add with Christian, I've seen him come in and work with people in the office and actually have a genuine passion to learn about how USG works and what are the best ways of navigating that system.
What a heartfelt moment. Genuinely. Round of applause. We love civility. Okay, next question. There's not really a category. We just categorize it as USG, so, that's how it goes. But anyways, question is, campus climate and student needs change drastically year to year based on campus issues and current events that come up, again, as we saw last semester. So how do you balance the current needs or anticipated future needs of the student body with the expansive platforms that you're running on now? And we'll start with Julianna and Klarissa.
We really like this question because obviously as needs change, we want to be accessible to all the students. With that being said, our first platform point of transparency and communication is really the way that we hope to promote the way that USG works. Right now, even as like a freshman last year, I had no idea how the system within USG works and how I can use USG as a platform for to advocate for the needs that I face. And something like a bi-weekly newsletter with a video supplement is something that I, as a student with a disability, would have loved to have. I know from working with the communications department in the past, like we do have a newsletter that our president and vice president already utilize, but I would like to expand on that. Like they do a great job already, but I would like to expand with the video supplement and meeting with other student governments to address the gaps that we have and share what we do well while receiving the same thing, but vice versa.
Thank you so much. Sam and Christian.
Yeah, so similar to like Klarissa was saying, definitely utilization of that USG newsletter, whether it be for polls, surveys, kind of just gauge the interest of campus. But at the same time, we also can't let students come to us with their issues. We have to be proactive about this. So whether that be going to different RSO meetings or already having set up bi-weekly meetings with different heads, just making sure that they know how accessible it is to come to us with their issues, while also working with our cabinet, working with different positions in USG to make sure that all problems and needs are met.
I think adding to that, off the back of what Mustafa has done with the communications department, utilizing social media as it is a very public-facing thing to use, getting feedback there, I feel like a lot more people feel accessible, have access to that, and feel good about engaging into that. So just growing that social media is a great way we can kind of gauge that.
Thank you. And then we'll have Brian and Bree.
When you become elected as president or vice president or senator, you're limited to one term. You are limited to that one academic year where you are actively working on projects. And so our platform is really focused on things that either elevate projects that are already in place or projects that we really feel tangible. And I think a big focus of our campaign and what we would have as an administration is setting a proper foundation for these projects and for these issues to be progressed past our term. We want to ensure that students who care about these issues are set with enough of a foundation to the point where they can just pick off where we left off, so there's no time progress lost during the transition of power during any of these like terms that we would change into if elected.
Thank you so much. And finally, Dacity and Abatha.
A big thing for our campaign is students first, and we want to collaborate more with RSOs so that our proactive change is able to be upheld and continued even after we leave our term. A big thing that we want to focus on, as we mentioned, is food security and home security. Building on that live sheet that I mentioned earlier is having those resources available and shown to people so that they have a place to go, and then also using all the digital resources that we have as a community, whether that's social media, whether that's general meetings where people can come in and tell us what is wrong. We want to be able to be there proactively for our students. And another thing is allowing for transparency overall with how we are operating and how we're using our funds to better help the community in those different ways.
Thank you so much. Okay, moving on.
All right, so you guys all talk about listening to students, and you all propose various ways for getting students engaged. Julianna, Klarissa mentioned open forums with the cabinet, Dacity and Abatha with transparency, Sam and Christian, you guys mentioned educational workshops, Ryan and Bree mentioned open forums and round tables. So everyone has a bit of a different approach. However, existing mechanisms for engagement, like the weekly Senate meetings that are public and USG surveys, have had somewhat low student attendance. So how will your approach actually engage students and increase attendance? And we will start with Sam and Christian.
I think one thing we can do as student government is try to make student life a little bit more fun. Sam and I have talked about maybe having like a pajama day, just stuff that you like to do in high school, where that brings good attention to student government, and you know that gets them added. That student government's trying to get these fun things going on. What else are they doing for the student body? Because I think at the end of the day, we can't forget that we are college students still, and we should still try to have a good time. And I think people, if they see student government having these fun ideas, that they might be more inclined to kind of come towards us.
And also to that point with the workshops, which was in our platform, I will show you if anyone actually wants to see. I got a DM less than an hour ago from someone asking a question about what they're going to do for RSOs and how the transparency among funding, stuff like that. And during my time in funding, we had these funding workshops where representatives of the funding department could meet directly with the RSOs and talk with them and answer their questions one-on-one, face-to-face.
Brandon Bree.
I think our main approach goes on going to RSOs. We feel like a lot of RSOs feel like they only are valued by USG when it comes to election season. And we really want to change that and ensure that RSOs feel valued throughout beyond election season, and that we are actively going to RSO meetings and engaging with them and seeing what worries are on their mind. Senate seems to be very low attendance, but if we were to actually get issues in that RSOs are facing and that we're actually talking about, I believe that RSOs would love to come and discuss their experiences with these issues.
Again, like we mentioned before, it's often scary for students to kind of go into these new systems and these new events and kind of forums. So really ensuring that we go to them in places they're already comfortable with is so key to ensuring that they have a good reception to us.
Thank you. Dusty and Abatha.
For me, I think that, as I said earlier, with the way that this bureaucracy works, everything takes way too long. And that's not something that works for students, because we're trying to aim for a change that we're not going to be able to see in our own lives. So I think that horizontal leadership, like, we need to lessen the number of people we have to go up. And I think that our platform is really about uplifting voices rather than speaking for, because often we're told what our own issues are. And I think that when we let the people who need the most say what they need, then we're able to prioritize funding, we're able to prioritize support, we're able to prioritize like the different campaigns that we're uplifting.
Thank you. And last but not least, Julianna and Klarissa.
I think one of the issues with our current idea of doing student outreach is the lack of incentives for students. I think that's something that Klarissa and I really hope to shift with students, is making it worth their time to actually show up and talk to us. Again, if you just come to talk to us and give us an idea and we don't follow up, or you don't ever see your idea come into fruition, you're never incentivized to speak to us like ever again.
And in order to address the attendance that was asked in the question, what is to create channels where students can engage with USG before it has to come to Senate meetings. Senate meetings already are seen as like more of a reactive place for students to bring their needs to USG, which I believe it's a great platform, but I would like to create an open forum structure within our Senate meetings where it can maybe be served as project pitches, or where we can have an administrator there for a certain topic that students and these RSOs can speak about in that allocated time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We now have a question that's been raised in the chat, but also we're curious about. What does it look like to prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion within USG, for example, in your cabinet? And we will start with, I'm losing track, maybe Julianna and Klarissa, sure? Yeah, sure. Okay, great.
Yeah, we can do half and half, yeah. Let me get it ready on your first word.
I think we approach DEI as a holistic lens, in that it's not just about the color of your skin or the community you come from. That's very important, but if we focus only on that, it becomes an issue of filling a quota, which is not what we're about. We're about representing all student voices, not fulfilling a quota. Diversity, equity, and inclusion include your perspective, include the experience that you bring to the table, include your goals and priorities that you have when you come to us.
When it comes to DEI, like personally I've experienced like sometimes other minority groups within DEI being often overlooked, such as topics of disability, but also dismantling this idea that DEI is a taboo subject. I feel like our chief diversity officer this year has been a very approachable figure, even for me within USG. So creating DEI in the form of a cohesive story of what everybody contributes. Thank you.
Gonna have to cut for time. Thank you. Next we'll go Sam and Christian.
Yeah, I think you guys just had a great response to that. I think DEI really stands on a thought process, not just your background or color and all that, where you come from. But I think it's like you said, it starts with the cabinet, the people in USG having as big of a diversity of people on campus. We have such a diverse campus of backgrounds of all across international students, people all across the United States, different sexual orientations, and I think having systems in place where they can have a voice and come to USG and express their feelings is something that is of the utmost importance.
And also, what matters most is willingness to learn and empathize with others. We should recognize the fact that it's impossible for just 2 students to recognize the whole student body. But like Krishnan was saying, surrounding yourself with diverse viewpoints and perspectives and just empathizing, understanding, talking.
Thank you for time. Thanks. All right, next.
This is actually something that me and Bree really touched on when we were getting interviewed and during the campaign trail. CAB is something that the president and vice president can control immediately. On day one, they can start looking for the questions they're gonna ask, the people they wanna recruit, the ideas that they wanna bring, the values that they wanna bring into the office. And so yeah, both of the candidates prior to us were really good on touching on the experiences, the background. Those things make up diversity as well. And so ensuring that you kind of bring in those when you're actively hiring for these positions is key. Making sure that you kind of ask questions that gear them towards like, hey, what experience has made you passionate about this project, or what has brought you to this position right now? Like, why do you want to be in this, and what would you do with that role to ensure that other students are heard that are in similar positions as you? And so I think that's really key, because CAB is something that you can control as PVP, and oftentimes we just kind of let that surpass when we vote for the next president, vice president.
Thank you. And last but not least, Dacian Abda.
Personally, we believe that the diversity in campus doesn't just stop at USG. It doesn't just encompass who we have in USG. It is a very big part of it, but it also is what we have on our campus and how we support the diversity on our campus. For example, one of our standpoints is that we remove culturally insensitive representation on the campus in the statues and such. Things like Felix Field is a great example of how we've made progress to change and to represent the worldwide reach that USC has. We have so many alumni and so many people who have made great change, but we are not representing any of those people properly on our campus. And that is our biggest point, to represent people all over the world who come to USC and are attending here properly.
Thank you. All right.
Next, we'll transition into questions from our very own USG president and vice president.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nivea Jackalyn. I'm the current USG president, and it is my honor to be speaking and asking you all one question tonight. All right, so I'll get into it. You have all noted in your platforms major issues that you think exist within USG and USC. This year, on top of the last several years, we have made major attempts and strides in combating housing inequity and food insecurity and inaccessibility, topics that we've seen each of you include in your platform. As you know, it takes years for most projects to happen, even despite our best efforts, for a few reasons: the budget timeline, the amount of administrators and other campus partners that typically have to sign on. So a strong candidate does their research and makes sure to build on successful initiatives. From some of what we've heard here tonight, and because none of the candidates here have spoken to us about their candidacy, we want to know what research you have done on our administration and USG as a whole. What current USG initiatives do you believe are successful, especially relating to your platform points? And would you hope to build on, and how?
So I would like to say that, first of all, I think I commend the fact that there are people here that I've seen at community events who are working within the Senate, who are working within the different groups in USG. I think that within itself is representation matters. Representation is really about, existence is resistance. In terms of USG initiatives, I commend the work that is happening with trying to give students more resources, even though I think that work needs to be continued. I think that I commend the work of the resources being shared on the Instagram, and I think that's really cool, even though I think that we have a long way to go with resources being shared in general.
Thank you.
One of the projects I'd like to highlight of this current administration is their addressal of food insecurity, specifically through the Too Good To Go program. That's something that I was recently looped in on. It's essentially a project from USC Dining in collaboration with President Jackalyn, Chair Constantian of the Committee of Affordability and Basic Needs, the Office of Basic Needs, and it's essentially to address both food waste in the dining halls and food insecurity amongst our students who frequently access the Trojan food pantry. So that's something that I commend you on and that I hope to continue working on.
To build off of that, we did do our research with Michaela and Saa advocating for the medical supply vending machines 3 years ago. Like, that has something that has been able to come to fruition over 3 years. And I feel like being transparent about the timeline is something that we also want to amplify, especially with them being senators, affordability and basic needs. Some mobile ID projects with Hannah and Nivea's candidacy prior to theirs, they started roundtable discussions that we would like to continue. So thank you.
Yeah, so one of our platform points is health and wellness prioritization. And I don't know if you saw the amazing acting video that Divya and Michelle did, but they have just launched the student health vending machines around, in the village, and just pushing more initiatives like that with health and wellness prioritization, whether it be like Bree's talking about Wellness Week, just emphasizing the health of students on campus, as well as pushing it out to the students, letting them know that these resources are available, and making sure, continuing those efforts to make sure that these students know what USG truly is doing for them.
I think something pivotal that we can touch on is the fact that the president and vice president in the current administration doesn't necessarily just have to work on projects. So something that we really saw this year was this idea of inter-department collaboration and ensuring that all our departments work together cohesively, because that's something your PVK can control. That's something that they are building. That's the office community that they are ensuring is successful for students, where they feel welcomed and where they feel allowed to be listened to and really work with each other in order to ensure that your projects are getting done.
I think it's also important to touch on, I've met with Michelle several times to talk about interdepartmental collaboration. I think it's something really important to build a relationship within USG so you can build a relationship outside of USG. So Wellness Week was a big part of that. I've reached out to a lot of people within USG, seeing where they could participate and try to include their participation in this whole wide collaboration event.
Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Michelle Liu and I'm the Vice President of USG. USG funding has been a big topic of discussion over the past couple years. Brian and Bree, you talk about enhancing transparency in the funding application process for RSOs through clear updates on stages of funding proposals. Sam and Christian, you talk about having an up-to-date budget tracker. Dassy and Abatha, you talk about the lack of spending transparency within USG. And lastly, Julianna and Klarissa, your transparency initiatives don't reference funding, but you want to foster open communication with the student body and administration. How do you plan to increase transparency beyond what the current administration has already done, from publishing the budget tracker on the website to hosting multiple funding workshops for RSO leaders? And more specifically, where do you plan to cut funding from, given that the vast majority of our budget already goes to RSOs and programming groups?
Yeah, so we think the funding department this year has done a really great job in increasing its transparency. Compared to other years, we've seen that it's been a lot more transparent and students are a lot more content with how it's been working this year. But one thing we do want to kind of improve is the updates that student organizations are getting. I applied for funding through my RSO, and it seemed like we kind of got ghosted sometimes, but with clear effort and communication, we were able to finally establish a line of communication between us and the funding department, but we think that that should have came more from them. So that's something that we're hoping on improving and ensuring that me having an in within the organization doesn't make sure that that's the only way of me communicating with funding.
And then in terms of like line items that we would cut.
Yeah, so Krishnan and I both have experience working in the funding department, and it can be very hectic, on the other side of the process. And as we highlighted in our platform, the funding dashboard The current administration has done an amazing job of keeping up to date, making sure applications are accepted only on a day, stuff like that, but just further enhancing it to the point where these dashboards, it's almost like checking your Amazon package. You know exactly what step in the process it is, as well as a contact me button if you have any questions. And again, back to those funding workshops, they're so pivotal just because the Zoom to Zoom contact, if it is Zoom, is super, super important because it gives you real-time answers right then, whereas we can streamline the process of week-long emails, conversations, such of that sort.
When it comes to finance, we really want to ensure that we're expanding our vendors list, because sometimes it's not necessarily the issue of not having enough funds, but the options that we're giving our RSOs to spend money towards are often expensive. In my personal experience, when it comes to looking at like merchandise, it is a bit on the pricier end. So if we could expand our vendors list to provide more feasible options for our RSOs and within USG to utilize, I feel like that would be a good starting place. With our T platform point for starting bi-weekly newsletters with video supplements, we would like this presidential address to include what our current finance department already has on the budget tracker online, but just creating a more consistent way for them to hear it. Additionally, we'd like to include an instant text message service like on Remind that students can self-subscribe to when they can know when funding applications are open. Thank you.
I believe that there should be an active form in which, to build off of what was said before, RSOs and students can submit other places in which they would like to get vendors so we can have them approved. I've personally worked with events like the East African Association who weren't able to get the vendor that they specifically wanted and had to jump through so many hoops in order to secure a vendor that not only served the food that represented their culture the best, but also was affordable to them. And another thing that I want to mention is that someone in the Senate that was running for Senate also mentioned a tier, and I think that this is a great way to manage and be more transparent with how we are delivering the different funding to everyone, so that we know who needs the funding where and what is more important to us as a government. And yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we go to closing statements, I'm actually going to run through some voting logistics real fast because I don't want people to leave after the closing before you know how to vote. We also got a little worrying questions about if freshmen can vote, if seniors can vote. You all can vote, so please do that. But yeah, just some quick info. Shocker, this is actually a slide deck. It's not just that first page. So quick voting information. Voting opens on Tuesday because Monday's President's Day. So voting kicks off Tuesday at 12 a.m., moves through Friday at 11:59 p.m., and you get free food if you vote. Huge, huge. This year we have a bunch of different vendors too. So what you'll do is you'll vote, and then you'll get a confirmation. You'll get a thank you email for voting. All we ask is that you come to one of our polling places. All that information will be, well, you can see it right here too, actually, but it'll also be on our Instagram. If you come to our table and show us the page, then you'll get a ticket and you can get food. I'd say game plan in advance, which dessert item you want, because we only are giving you one for the whole week. We don't have infinite resources here. So Tuesday's Fluff Ice, Wednesday's Portos, Thursday is unlimited donuts. So exciting. Yeah, that's quick voting info. And then just a quick run through of where you can get the link to vote. It'll be on our elections page. So if you go to the USG website, go to elections, there's a vote now button. I'm sure all the candidates will also have the link to vote in their Instagrams. It'll also be in our link tree on our Instagram, which you should all follow, by the way. Shout out COM, shout out at USC, USG. And we'll also be sending out a university-wide email that you'll get from the USG president next week. And also it'll be in the USC Student Affairs We Are SC email. So lots of ways. There's low-key not an excuse for you to not have the link. So please find it and vote. And then eligibility-wise, anyone who is a currently enrolled USC undergraduate student can vote. This includes people that are studying abroad. This includes people enrolled in a progressive degree program, as long as they have that undergraduate status as well. So including seniors, including freshmen, everybody. And yeah, every student can only vote once. That should be kind of intuitive. And then one thing I just wanted to show was the ranked choice voting instructions. So again, the presidential, vice presidential election only will be via ranked choice. What this means is that you can rank as many or as few candidates as you wish. So when the candidates were talking about the reason why we asked that question, or the reason why an audience member asked that question, is because we're using ranked choice voting. And this will kind of be what the screen looks like. We won't have any write-in candidates because no one applied to be a write-in candidate, so we don't have that option. And basically, you'll see, so instead of these like fictitious characters, you'll obviously have like the real tickets, and people will be able to rank up to 4 people. You don't need to rank all 4, that's up to you. Just wanted to show you all this in advance. All these instructions are what you will see when you're actually filling out the ballot too. And we'll have an explainer on our USG Instagram as well. So without further ado now, we'll get back into the final thing, which is closing statements. Every ticket will have 45 seconds. And we'll start with Julianna and Klarissa.
I wanted to first emphasize that we chose the acronym TRUST because we truly believe that there's been a lack of that in recent years, and we don't think that we can be an effective administration and have effective policies and projects if you don't actually trust us to follow through on that.
We are extremely passionate about creating an undergraduate student government that you can trust. So through our demonstrated history and advocacy inside and outside of USG, and your help, we hope we can achieve this. If you resonated with what you heard today, follow our campaign at Julianna Klarissa 2024 and text JK4U at 81010. Vote for us, and we'll fight on for you. Thank you.
Awesome. And then Sam and Christian?
I just want to reemphasize the fact that Christian and I care. You know, we care about making a lasting difference on campus. We care about the interests and the needs of the students. We care about each and every one of you guys. And it's our duty and privilege to serve you guys. And we just want to let you guys know, in our bio, we have our platform. At the top of the platform, we have our phone number, our email. I'm a night owl. You can text me anytime, I'll answer, I'll answer. And if you have any qualms, comments, questions, concerns, just please, we're here for you guys. We're not here for us. So please reach out, follow us at Sam and Christian 2024, and fight on.
And adding to that, if you're 21, want to grab a beer or a Diet Coke if you're under 21, we'll always have an open door policy. We can always meet, we can always talk.
Okay, that's
anytime.
time. Sorry. Okay. Dacity and Avatha, you're next.
I want to say, vote for the things that really matter now. We are building a legacy, not a chain of nepotism. We're here because we feel like nobody has fought for us. We have USG people standing in front of us who are laughing at our existence. No one here looks like us. No one here sounds like us. No one here understands intersectional issues like we do. And I think that we are the ones who will be the change. Don't get comfortable. So many leaders have come from outside governing bodies to create change, and we are that.
Thank you. And then finally, Brian and Bree.
We just want to really emphasize the fact that we are running a platform where students really understand what the capacity of their president and vice president is when they take on these roles, ensuring that students know what you can actually do within these roles and what you can do within your term. And ensuring that students are really aware of that during the entire campaign trail has been our biggest point.
And I think it's really important to see all your candidates here today. Everyone has put in a great amount of effort and commitment to be here. It is not easy to be up here. So I really encourage you to look at everyone's platforms. We do recognize that all students have a voice on this campus, and they just are looking for someone to amplify that voice. Please, 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 I encourage you to look through everyone's platforms and see what candidate sticks out to you, and choose the candidate that you believe will best amplify your voice.
Thank you. And with that, we end the presidential vice president. Okay, you're free to leave.
What's the Senate code?